and each district was named after respective rivers. Kameng, Subansiri, Siang, Lohit, Tirap. So these 5 big rivers divided Arunachal into 5 districts. And me being from Siang is, I think, definitely one of the most prominent, not only regionally, but world over is known as, it's a very famous river, more popularly known as Brahmaputra. But it only becomes Brahmaputra when it enters the plains of Assam, and also joined by other tributaries like your Lohit and Dibang and all this. So Siang, as we call the Brahmaputra in Arunachal, it flows about 300 kilometers. So it begins from Mansarovar Lake. Then in Tibet it's called the Yarlung Sangpo. Then in Arunachal it's called Siang. Siang, it's a mix of 2 words. Asi, which means water. Ang means heart. So literally it means heart of water. And when it gets to the plains of Assam, it's joined by Dibang and Lohit. Then it becomes the Brahmaputra, and interestingly, the only male river in India. The rest of the rivers are Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. But Brahmaputra, which means the son of Brahma, this is the only male river in India, and lots of stories behind this river. Lots of books. For a long time, explorers in the early part of the century, they thought Yarlung Sangpo is Irrawaddy. Some of them thought it's the Mekong, and some thought it's the Lohit. So there are lots and lots of explorers, namely people like Belly Morset, Kim Tu, even some Japanese explorers. They were basically trying to establish that Yarlung Sangpo is Brahmaputra, but now we know that it's the same river. Thank you.
Yeah. Talking about rivers, lead us to another interesting project with which Vinayashil Oberoi and also Mr. O'Kane was associated with. That is a film which is named In the Forest Hangs a Bridge. So could you tell us something more about this particular project?
I've had a very checkered kind of careers in my life. I started as I tried to be a singer, then ended up being then a filmmaker, then a tour guide, then now a politician. So, but the most impactful period of my life, I think, is when I got involved in this film, In the Forest Hangs a Bridge, and where I met Mr. Oberoi. I used to call him Sir, and he is actually my mentor, and part of me has come from what my experiences with his company and with his company. So he was in the government, and he decided, we have this, if you come to Siang, we have this really long, really magnificent bridges across the Siang River, which he talked about, and it spans sometimes, the longest one is 300 meters. So it's really beautiful, and it's completely made by the community, and it's totally made of Kenyan bamboo. It used to be, then, in a period of time, they started using steel ropes for the frame for longevity of the bridge. So when he decided that he should do a film on this bridges, the process of making it, and he was looking for a local kind of coordinator or a fixer, then then I figured in the whole quest, and I was deeply involved in the process of the shooting, editing, post-production, and we went around showcasing the film. So it really made a big impact in my life, and is, I think, one of definitely the magnum opus of my life, being a part of this film. Yeah.
Actually, I was going through some of the clips from the film, and I realized that the film actually highlights one of the traditional practices from the state, which is community engagement in building roads or bridges or houses. But with the advent of modernization and with change in time, like in Monpa community also, like whenever one person needs to build a house, that will be a community affair, and afterwards they will have a grand feast together. But now people, like we hardly see these practices. So mostly they hire laborers from outside or maybe within the state to get this work done. So I would like to ask you that how do we implement developmental projects, or how do we strike a balance between implementing developmental projects as well as preserving the age-old tradition?
Yeah, I mean, what we used to call society, even in our tribal culture, it's an evolving process. Team changes, it gets affected by various factors, and the most strongest is the term called development. So sometimes it completely wipes out lots of our traditional practices, traditional values. So things like, building of these bridges and even the houses were always done by the community. In my tribe, you don't build your own house, basically. So everybody builds everybody's house. So they go one by one, they start with my house, but everybody would participate. Then they go to the next house. So everybody's house is built by everybody. So same with the bridge, it's a 3 days of really hard work, but everybody participate, and each different age group of the village has a different role to play, and then things like that. So the community is in control of everything, and it's 100% participation of community. But again, we are in a period where developmental things, it sometimes comes down on us heavily, and things go completely different from what it used to be. Now, even this bridge we're talking about on this film, now we have a concrete bridge right up north, about a few kilometers away. So the bridge is now it's just a barren skeleton. So that is an image of how things changes.
And also, these traditions, like it shows us how they are dependent on nature. Because, like from Apatani Valley, I can tell you a reference that they, like in spite of living within the vicinity of forest, they grow they have their private forestry, because it is said that whenever there is a fire, it engulfs the whole village. But since they have these bamboo and pine trees available in abundance, they can repair the whole village within a day's time. So I think preserving of this tradition also makes you realize the importance of the relationship between man and nature. Talking about tradition, I would like to refer one of the traditional practices which have been highlighted in the book. That is about the handmade paper from Mukto village. So I would like to tell our audience about this practice, ma'am.
So this handmade paper, which I'll show you a little sample of in the book, we used one sheet just to sort of showcase that paper. So this Mukto village, I had seen this paper about 30-40 years ago, and then after some time the production of this paper would be very limited. So every time we would go to Tawang, there was one little shop, and I would go and buy all the paper that was there, which was like, a few sheets. It was not as though it was a lot. But so when the book was getting done, we wanted to use this handmade paper as a sample, and it was COVID time. So with great difficulty, I asked my friend Lakpa Shering, who is very instrumental in this book getting done, that please go to the village and order this paper, and we want to use a sheet. And in Delhi, they were like, handmade paper, it's very difficult to use it, and we'll have to iron it, and there were a lot of issues with it. But I was quite determined to use it. So in this Mukto village, where the handmade paper is a 1,000-year-old tradition it was used for all the Buddhist scriptures to be written in, and it's done in many countries. So we ordered the paper, we got it, and then we I don't know if you can see it, but I'll just show it to you. You've seen it in many. Yeah, maybe
Volunteers
Just,
can help?
yeah, no, but it's not unusual for people from here. So it was a sheet that was, then we used it in the book for just one little sheet as a sample of the, handmade paper from this Daphne plant that's made, and it's also done in Bhutan and in other parts of the world also that you use, similar. So, but there's only a very small community that is now producing this in Mukto and a few families. Yeah, that's it. That's just one sheet is used. That's it. The entire book is not on handmade paper.
So when we talk about preservation and conservation of the tradition, I think tourism, we can say that is a medium or a tool wherein we can showcase the age-old practices from different regions. So my question is is addressed to both of you, that how can we promote tourism in such a way that there is a balance between preservation of culture or nature, as well as that we do not over commercialize.
Yeah, then, tourism is such a big industry now, and thankfully, it's an industry which doesn't emit pollution, but, it happens in some form or other. But any money-making activity, any commercial enterprise sometimes leads to, certain difficulties in over commercializing. But I think more and more the sensible tourists all over the world, they understand and they like to see something very authentic, something very local, and they have a nose for it. If something is manufactured and something is trying to be fake. So now they're very smart, they understand. So I think the more authentic you remain, the more attention you get. So wherever we go, and people are trying to get back to what the originality of everything, any tourism activity. Nagaland is a really big example, for a long time it's been a Christian state. You can say it's almost 100% Christian. But when they started the Hornbill Festival, it's as authentic as it can be, right down to the bear food and clothes they wear. So that's why, it's such a famous festival. It draws tourists from all over the world because the core of it is they retain their authenticity. So, it applies to everything, people are looking for authentic, genuine experiences and, showcase.
I would just like to say that yes, there is a absorptive capacity that possibly is there for every place, and we have already spoiled a large number of our hill stations in the north with having overrun every summer. There's a story of Missouri or somewhere where in fact I went last year, we couldn't cross from one side to the other. We spent 2.5 hours in traffic. So that is what we don't want to do in any sort of place, and definitely you need to be vigilant. So when you do want the tourist, because the tourist also brings with them, they bring opportunity there. When I went to Dirang last time, I saw there were nearly 300 homestays. So that's also one other aspect of it. It's also giving opportunity to 300 people to actually get an income from this tourist who's coming. But you also need to know that you don't want cars and cars lining up, which is what is every year in the summer. We will all see these on our WhatsApp, whether it's in Himachal or in Missouri, and in Shillong. It happened last year. I couldn't go to Limupra because it was 2.5 hours to go, and our good friend said if you go there, you won't be able to make your flight. So, this is what we certainly don't want to happen in any place, so we have to be always careful, and of course the government also has to probably step in at some point, in many ways, and of course the local people. So both ways you have to.
Yeah, why I ask this question is that because we realize that this circuit, I mean, from your Bhalupung, Dirang, Tawang, I think mostly the domestic tourists, they go there for enjoying nature tourism rather than cultural tourism or ethnic tourism. But now, I think, as you said, that there is a mushrooming of homestays, like in Dirang, Samti Valley, Thembang. Because there are case studies of some indigenous communities, people when they get the attention of the global tourist, they tend to indulge in self-objectification, or they are exoticized in a way. So, sir, you are very much into tourism industry. You are a member of NTAC, that is National Tourism Advisory Council, and chairman of Northeast Chapter ATOA, that is Adventure Tour Operators Association of India. So I'd like to ask you that as a stakeholder, what are the specific guidelines? Or ethical considerations which you implement while conducting your tours? Because he is also the owner of one of the leading tour company, that is Abor Country. So that is why I would like to know from you.
Yeah, now over tourism is already a big problem, not only in Asia, but even places like Spain and Italy, they're trying to stop tourists from coming. It's not like you have people walking close to a window from early in the morning till evening, so it's not nice anymore. So I think tourism should be something enjoyable for both the visitors and the host as well. But when it's become an unpleasant experience, then you start calling it over tourism. And that I think in Arunachal, even in general in India, I mean, I always emphasize this point that we must have a vision of where we want to take our tourism to, and we should not push for numbers. It should be of high value and low quality. And Bhutan is such a good model. I've been advocating what Bhutan has been doing. They have such a smart policy. I mean, they let in only certain number of tourists in a year, charging them very high. Their charge is about $400 a day. It's lots of money in anybody's standard. But in the process, what happened is there's a lure. There's a place, a lovely place in corner of the Himalayas, where they let in only certain amount of tourists. They charge you very high amount. So that becomes an enticing factor. In the process, for a long time, people are lining up. They will say, okay, when they're booked for Bhutan, maybe in 5 or 6 or 7 years. And the other thing they do is they haven't opened everything, not all of the country. They have the vision that, in certain year will open that part of the country. And what you call is Merak Sakten in Bhutan, it's our western border. So it's not open to tourists yet. So in a phase-wise manner. So that way you create a value for your place, and at the same time it's sustainable, and you get good value for the business. So this is something we don't have to copy ditto, but I think all over India, even in Assam and Arunachal, we should not push for numbers, but look at value. I mean, we should have 10 people paying $1,000 instead of 10,000 people paying $1, because if that happens, number one, the loss of damage on your ecology, the loss of impact on your culture, something you talked about, the cultural appropriation happens, things like that. So I think the idea is to go slow in a sustainable manner, but most importantly, you must understand, where the tourism is leading to, all the negative effects. Because in the end of the day, I mean, tourism is also an industry, we're trying to make money. There are other ways of making money, but if tourism is causing harm to your ecology, to your environment, to your culture, then I think it's very important we slow down, retrospect, and have a really smart policy, like for example Bhutan has.
I think that's why we say that in sustainable tourism or responsible tourism, tourism should just be an alternate source of income for the local people so that they do not totally divert from their traditional occupation. Okay, coming back to the book, I would like Nandini Oberoi to highlight something about Urjiling, which was the birthplace of 6th Dalai Lama, His Holiness 6th Dalai Lama. So could you just highlight some points?
Well, it's a small little monastery, very charming little monastery, Urjiling, where the 6th Dalai Lama was born and then taken from here to Tibet. And then, of course, Tawang Monastery is the main dominant monastery in the area. And then later, the 14th Dalai Lama crossed over from Kinzamani and came into the Monyul region. So, it is really talking of a period where there were no borders, because people were going from this side to that side and coming from that side. Later, much later, he of course crossed when there was a border. He crossed in 59, so much later. But yeah, Urjiling is a small monastery, but very charming and very beautifully located, and doesn't have the pomp of Tawang, but it is very special nonetheless.
Another interesting story which we find in the book is about the pastoral community of the Monpa, that is Brokpas. So, can you tell us something about the Brokpas?
The Brokpas are the herders, really, and there's an interesting chapter in the book about the Brokpa people and how they take all the cattle up and come down again, and grazing them, and the women basically stay back because the children are going to school, and the community and how the community is adapting to again the change, the fact of earlier days, of course, they would all move up and all move down, but now because of schooling and alternate practices that people are following, it's become a little changed. So Vinay captured a lot of this movement of the Brokpa people going up and down, and also the hardship of these lives, because taking all the cattle up to 9,000 feet and then grazing, then coming back again. It is quite a hard life, and then they make with the churpi and the cheese and other milk-based products which then they are selling, and that is the way in which they sustain their themselves. And of course the Brokpa people also, there are some very interesting photographs of the hide which they use as for warmth, and the shoes that they make, and all predating all the industrial shoes and clothes that we have now. So they are still some of the people, you can see remnants of that, but I think it's the last few times that you will see them, because they're all quickly vanishing, all those things, So, but the Brokpa community continues to be still going up and down the slopes with all their cattle and the yaks and the herders in general. So
Yes, I think the community also is a very good example of natural resource management, as you said. So we have such different stories in which we find in the book, whether it's the Choskar procession you are talking about, or the Torgia or Loser festival. So could you just quickly brief us something about the festivals of Monpa people?
There are a whole lot of festivals that, of course, all tribal communities come to life in the festivals, So everybody is all dressed in their traditional clothes, and everybody is enjoying and outdoors. So Losar, of course, is going to be coming up soon. So that is a one time when there's the New Year, so all the prayer flags are changed. Everybody is celebrating for 3, 4, 5 days, feasting and having generally a good time. So that is in Losar. Torgya is the festival of mass dances, which I have to say that I have not seen. I've seen only through the book, because it's usually in January and super cold in Tawang, and I haven't been brave enough to go there in the cold in that time. It's like minus 7, 8 degrees and you're out in the open. But the festival is really quite spectacular, as you will, maybe we can show some of those pictures. And then there are smaller festivals like the Choskar and all, where you're taking out the scriptures on a procession. So there's a lot of faith really lives in the Monpa people in a way that maybe in other parts of the country we have possibly had it and we lost some of it, but there it's very much part of their daily lives. So that is what it, the people are constantly observing their faith in some way, whether it is by turning the prayer wheels, for example, or going to the monastery, by these other smaller days in which they're celebrating something, venerating a saint. So things like that definitely among the people when you spend, but you have to spend a length of time. If you just go for 2 days or 3 days, you're not likely to see any of this. You will see the landscape, which is of course there, but some of this you have to do multiple trips to be able to come upon it as a, suddenly, I would say.
So the book has got all these colorful pictures intertwined with rich narratives. But I would like to ask you, since you have experienced this with, you had a great contribution towards the finishing or coming out of this book in print. So what are the ethical considerations we should have while documenting a book on maybe an ethnic tribe or an indigenous community? So what were the challenges you faced being an outsider? I would say, even though you have spent considerable time traveling throughout this land.
First, I don't think I had a great contribution. You're giving me some extra marks because
No, I just want to tell you that the first contribution was gifting of the camera, which initiated the project.
That was one part of it. Yes, I think there is a sort of again, it's like the tourism story. You want it and you don't really want it, both things. So here also you want to document it, and you're also, it is to me personally, it is somewhat invasive in a way, because you're taking a picture of someone and you're putting it into a book. So there is that question, I do think. But on the other hand, there's also the other part, that if we don't sort of document it, we also are in danger of losing some of this. So, whether it is the textile weaving tradition, or even some of these, there's, for example, I've been several times and I have never seen the Bon Puja, which again, by chance, one time my husband had gone, and it was on the days that the Bon Puja was happening, and Lakpa said, do you want to see it? And of course he was like, yes, I want to see it. So they are usually quite also reticent about, it's like, someone else is coming into your prayer space. It's not exactly something that you would, as I said, it's somewhat invasive. Here's one person with a big camera coming and you are doing your prayers. So it is a little like that, but there is also, as I said, the documentation of this is also somewhat important. So it is, but you have to be sensitive. You have to let the person know that you're doing this. You don't just take the pictures and say, okay, we'll see what. So you have to make them, and in many of these photos, the person knew that, this, and as he had gone several times, he was very pally with many of these aunties who are featured in the book. And then when they came, I sent these books to them through Lakpa, because many of them are his, in his community, village, etc. He knew them. So they were all very excited about it, and I felt somewhat okay about it, because I also had the same concern that, we've got these pictures of these people, and do they know that they are featured in this book? It is a question definitely that we need to be conscious of, and need to be aware of, and they also need to be told. So yes.
Yeah. My last question to you is that from our conversation yesterday, I came to know that you have an innumerable collection of the photographs taken by Ganesh Lavera. So do you also plan to document maybe something from Assam or maybe from Meghalaya? Any such plans?
Not really. This book, as I said, you've given me some extra marks, but he had done all of this work. There was a couple more ideas, but I don't think that, putting a book together takes a lot of effort and multiple visits and all. I don't know if we have it in us to do. I wish that we would, but yeah, let's see. There was one to be on the Siang, I remember that, but I don't know if it will happen now. Maybe Oken will do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that not one camera was gifted. I think she gifted a couple of them. So tons and tons of photographs. I mean, I think we have materials for, I mean, at least 5-6 books easily. But I met Vinay Avaresar in Siang, where I'm from. So I know that we have lots of photographs there, and I think there's one project I'm happy to do with all my heart, and I know we have lots of photographs, so I'll definitely, something I'll take this on.
Definitely looking forward to this. So I would like to open the floor for questions. Because I believe we have some students from the tourism management as well. So,
do you really think?
yes, the other side, yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Kaustubh Deka. I teach here in the university. Very, very wonderful presentation with photographs and all that. And what actually came to my mind while listening to both of you, and you did in fact already mention some of this issue of cultural appropriation, this expansion of infrastructure, how it is so very crucial, because Arunachal is of course very near to us, and we have been visiting it for years now. And I do a little bit of work on ecology and borders. So I mean, what came to my mind is that we are all here familiar with this author called Yeshe Dorje Thongsi, who writes mostly in Assamese. He is a Sherduk in a neighboring community of Monpas. And he has this very wonderful book called Mouno Utmukhar Hridoy in Assamese. It's a Sahitya Academy award-winning novel. And this book actually depicts a very interesting phenomenon of infrastructure and how road making in fact has transformed the communities of Arunachal. It is a love story between two communities who did not have a common language. They come together, Monpas and the other community I'm forgetting, but they come together because of the road construction, and they fall in love across tribes. So this type of very small but very critical kind of insights, how this expansion of roads, these new bridges, this type of things coming up is changing the landscape completely. And it is connected to tourism also. Like also the issue of sacredness, because a lot of these places are sacred landscape. I remember here the issue of Mechuka you mentioned, and it is in fact called Beul in the Tibetan kind of values, because it's a hidden landscape, supposed to be a hidden landscape. And now we have a Salman Point of all places. So because of this whole phenomenon of Bollywood celebrities coming, and Tawang Lake in, Madhuri Lake in Tawang, Salman Point in Mechuka, which is Darjeeling in fact, has become a Salman Point. So these things are very challenging. Also the geopolitics aspect is there. because of geopolitics, we are having this very rapid expansion of infrastructure in those places. So that's the trap, and I would like to know from maybe both of you. In fact, of course, you have hinted on already, you have given Bhutan example as one possible maybe way to deal with it. And so how do we deal with this incoming huge expansion of infrastructure, and how it opens up the space, but at the same time you also have to somewhere draw the balance between sustainability and this expansion of infrastructure. So how do we perhaps go about it? So these are some of the quick thoughts that came to my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Those are really interesting observations. And I think something we don't realize is that what a strong, Assam and Arunachal is not only geographically connected, but we have such an common history, culturally, and in many other aspects. And the first film that was shot in Arunachal was a film called Rosmi Rekha, which was basically a story between an Arunachali girl, an Nocte girl, and an Assamese boy. And it had the A-lister stars of those days, Bhupen Hazarika, Birgu Pukon, and others. Then it was followed by another film called Meri Ma Meri Dharam, which was directed by Dr. Bhupen Hazarika. And my father's generation, they all studied in Assamese medium, so they can speak really fluent Assamese. I mean, so do I. And then again, lots of Bhupen Hazarika's songs are about Arunachal. He had a deep understanding of each tribe and their nuances and temperament. So we have a very strong cultural connection. And you mentioned Waini Thaumchi. The other person was a man called Lumerdai. He also has written a number of literature and novels in Assamese. So they were Assamese scholars, literally, Thaumchi and Lumerdai. And Mr. Thaumchi even contested to be a president of Assam Sahitya Sabha, and both Lumerdai, and they were honored by lots of Assam Sahitya Sabha and many Assamese accolades. So in fact, I personally have just in a process of initiating an Assam Arunachal Friendship Society, and I definitely would like you to be a part of it. So just to rekindle our connection, our relations, and how much we have in common. And we have Dr. Bhupen Hazarika's 100th birth anniversary coming up. So I think and he was born in Arunachal, by the way, in a village called Polum. So we have so much in common. So we have it coming up, and then so it's about time we sort of rekindle our closeness and our relations. So I'm so happy you brought it up. And it's coming back to the tourism, I mean, we have so much of infatuation with anything Bollywood, sometimes we get overwhelmed. So we have a Madhuri Lake in Tawang, and we have a, Salman Khan Point. So I think it's something we should definitely address. I'd rather have Lumerdai Point or Bhupen Hazarika Point. So I think it's time to retrospect that we go slightly more regional than getting overwhelmed. Like Bhutan had DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson, and Meryl Streep, Will Smith. That they don't have a point called Will Street Point, So that's an perspective we should look at. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Atlanta. I'm a PhD research scholar at the Department of English, Dibrugarh University. Well, I have two questions. How do you, since you all have had the privilege of having close acquaintances with the Monpa, so my first question is, how do you incorporate the Monpa youth into preserving their practices? Is there any tradition that is specifically meant for the youth community? And my second question would be, any practices with respect to death that is characteristic to Monpas only?
We should understand that culture itself is an evolving kind of thing, we hold on to certain practices, but over a period of time, you can see the changes happens, maybe in a very small way. So even their handloom used to be, everything was woven locally, but now they would source the raw material from Assam and things like that. But when it comes to preserving the culture, tourism is also one way of encouraging. When people realizes that they can make some money, they can earn a living by preserving their culture and authenticity, and this is what people would like to see, as I mentioned earlier. So it's an incentive, but at the same time we have look at the delicate balance between over tourism and over commercializing. And but like any other tribal culture, Monpa again is there's at least I know of 3 kind of Monpas, like one in Tawang. So they speak completely different kind of dialect language from the one in Dirang. Yeah, and Dirang Monpa is very similar to the Charsukpas in Bhutan. They understand each other, maybe because they're geographically closer. Then we have another Monpa in Morsing. So lots of very interesting traditions and culture. It's very hard for me to pinpoint which one, but in Tawang we have one village, they make potteries, very interesting potteries. So that's one, and then we have a bridge which is totally made of metal chain link, which is about 400 years old, called Chapcham. So things like that, very, very special. I mean, we are still in the process of discovering these small things, small marbles. And the 6th Dalai Lama is another one. He was a very special Dalai Lama. He used to have long hair, used to write poetry, used to have lots of girlfriends. So I mean, I don't know why a Hollywood movie hasn't been made about him yet, but he is such a strong and interesting character. In fact, yes, that's Lama, he won a Grammy Award and all this. Yes. So lots of interesting. So I mean, I want all of you to come and visit. It's a wonderful part of the country. Thank you.
This side.
Good day, everybody. I'm Professor Verma of Geography Department. There is a geopolitical question. What's your view regarding that? They have been building several dams over Sangpo and other rivers. What's impact going to have on these people, Monpas? Because China may use it as a water bomb. So that sort of danger is there. So what do you think? What is your opinion regarding this?
Yeah, I mean, the dams that the Chinese are coming with actually is on the Siang River, and I've looked at the Google Maps and other sources many times. There are lots and lots of projects coming up on the other side. They have dams and tunnels. You could just go on Google Earth and see. So sometimes it's a looming, it's a suspense and a fear that what is their intention. And China is a country, you don't really understand what they're up to, but what they do upstream of the river will definitely affect this side of the world. I mean, our part. Monpa, of course, they are more on the western side, higher in the mountain, but impact would be on the Siang and the Brahmaputra basin. So I think, of course, our government is, working closely on it, trying to ensure that nothing serious, any catastrophe happens because of their activities. So I think which is something we should watch closely and find the best way out.
Thank you.
My question is to Mr. Tan. You spoke of the Bhutan model, high value and low in volume. We are a country of 135 crore people, and most cannot afford high value tourism. And if you see that way, even our Kumbh or any other function, visit to a temple is also a tourism, religious tourism. And then we have the vested interest part of it. If you see recently in Pahalgam, about 400 resorts were demolished, and most of them belong to local MLAs, ministers, and all that. And then there was the Munnar Cardamom Hill episode where they demolished 300 plus resorts because they were all illegal. And then you can take, actually you can wish for about the Kaziranga ecosystem zone, whatever hotels and resorts that are coming up there. And all these are there to cash in on high value volume tourism. So how do you propose to, in this backdrop, how do you propose to modulate that? Is it really possible to implement Bhutan model in India?
Yeah, I mean, the point is we are over 1 billion, right? So even if we have to segment the billionaires of India, is like in a big figure of millions, right? So we need, even if we have to have a space for Indian millionaires, I mean, it's a big numbers. So right now, we have hotels like, one would be definitely the postcard hotels. So their rate starts at 50,000 a night to 2 lakhs a night for a room. And all the guests are 99% Indian, rich Indian people. So they are our market, and so, I mean, we are all over the place, look at Manali, Goa. So, koi to thoda sa ek jagah ho jahan where people can pay lots of money and, relax, for our own people, for our own millionaires. Like when COVID happened, they couldn't travel out of the country. So you won't believe, I have a small place in Pasigat called our country, River Camp. So the Birlas turned up with their own plane and landed in Pasigat for the first time. So see, I mean, the money we would have normally losed out to Paris or Bahamas or in Cheshire. So we have that, we have these people paying that, I mean, whatever is all they need is a certain level of, the certain quality of the service and accommodation. So we have, even in domestic, in our own people, in the domestic segment, we have a market for really high-end kind of clientele. So my point is, we cannot, just because we are such a big population, we cannot turn it into low value, like a Mela kind of scenario all over the place. So if we have, certain areas where we cater to high value market, not necessarily for Firangis, but even for our own millionaires, film stars, like this Sportscars hotel I usually book by a group of Bollywood, like Karan Johar would book, with all his 5-10 friends and book the whole place. But the money goes to our local people, the employees are from the community, so this has to be in place. So definitely we must have, all this. The mass is happening already, but save some places for high-end, high value and, low impact kind of facilities.
Any more questions from, I think, the students? If you wish, we can replay the video. But we are afraid sound may remain the same, right? We can give it a try. Yeah, that's it.
I'm Vinayshil Oberoi, a retired civil servant with a deep and abiding interest in the Northeast, a place that I have lived in, worked with, and proud to have served. And today I'm going to talk about the Trans-Himalayan explorers. I'm going to talk about the Pandits of Kumaon and many other explorers. And of course, I'm going to talk about the great river, the Brahmaputra, which is perhaps the only truly transnational river that you would come across in some continent. It's a river which has the largest river island in the world, almost 1,000 square kilometers. There is no other freshwater island of that magnitude anywhere inhabited in the rest of the world. For the Assamese, in myth, legend, and song, it's the Loit which is the Brahmaputra, the Red River, which also comes from Tibet. But it's not the Siang, and the Siang is geographically, correctly, the Brahmaputra. It's a majestic river. But it's the Loit which has stirred emotion and occasionally agitation throughout Assam.
that was a tribute to the Monpa people. I believe through this colorful depiction and the monastic music, we almost got transported to Monial, the land of Monpas. But we need to come back because I believe it's time to wrap up the session. But thank you so much, Nandini Oberoi and Mr. Okintayan, for that insightful deliberation. We hope to see you more. Thank you.
So we must say it was a very engaging session, but unfortunately it has come to an end. So I would like to thank our esteemed guests today, Nandini Oberoi ma'am, Okintayan sir, and Varnali Patwari ma'am, for this very informative and insightful session. And it is definitely a pleasure for all of us to be a part of this forum. And so on behalf of everyone present, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the guests for your time and thoughtful contributions. Thank you so much, ma'am and sir. And also, I take this opportunity to thank all the attendees for your patient hearing and participation. And also, I want to thank the rapporteurs, volunteers, and technical team, also everyone present and engaged to successfully conduct this session. Thank you.